Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man Frank SCALISH. Day 4, number 209.
Dang, we're racking them up.
Well, only 91 away from show 300. Last week when we did a show, Frank, you were preparing for the entire family minus Frankie, who had a little business to attend to on Lake Erie, to descend on Cleveland, Ohio for the Frank SCALISH family gathering,
and they descended all right.
Is that still going on? Are there people like sleeping on the floor around your feet in the studio now? Like, how has it been? You look like you may have indulged in a few cold pops over the last 72 hours.
Yeah. This body ain't built for this crap anymore. That's all I could tell you. It's been the nights have been very long. Very long. And last night was no different. And I am feeling the pain right now, boys and girls.
Now, is this just like a small family reunion, or was there a specific point to all of the SCALISH household being under one roof?
Normally they come in on the 4th, but nobody can make it.
I gotcha. So belated 4th of July.
Yeah, and it's I'm learning a few lessons about this. At this age, recovery is slow at best.
Doesn't take nearly as much to get wound up, but takes a lot to get
back to normal. Yeah, I haven't felt normal in 4 days.
Speaking of people are gonna yak, so we were talking a little bit about this before, and I had a lot of buddies that fish that Bass Nation Regional out of Lake Erie to make the Bass Nation Championship, which is in St. Clair later, and it sounded like a lot of guys, including Frankie, got eeried yesterday out there. I mean, you've done shows on it. We've done shows on it. If there is one guy who is meticulous about his equipment, the props, his game plan, knows the fishery, has done well in BFLs out of that whole area, it's Frankie. And Erie was not nice to a lot of those guys yesterday.
No, she wasn't kind. And, that's the problem. Whenever you're on that lake, I don't even care what the weather tells you it's going to do, because a lot of times it does whatever it wants to do, and it's not predictable. The issue is the area of the lake that they're going out of. You don't have a backup plan. There's no backwaters. There's no place to stay.
So you're just out in it, and you got to make a run somewhere to catch something.
Correct. That's why they canceled today. Today's canceled. They'll resume tomorrow.
I think over under. I would be shocked if Frankie didn't come in with a 20 sack tomorrow. Make a little redemption bag for him.
Yeah, I think if he can get to what he's got to do, I think he'll be okay. But at the same token, you don't want to take a stupid risk when you know you can't win it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of decisions that are going to need to be made, and they're not going to be made by me.
I'll tell you what, I think there's like 180 something in that tournament, and there were over 50 zeros. I saw guys that were throwing back mid-20s bags because they weren't able to make it back. I saw units, graphs ripped off of the front of the consoles, broken trolling motors. I mean, you know how good that fishery is, and for 180 boats, top 25 is only 17 pounds right now.
Yeah, I mean that was because of the weather. To be honest with you, if the weather would have given it to them, it would have been. You'd have seen different results.
I was saying my buddy Jody White, he had a 19-pound bag and thought he'd given himself plenty of time. And I talked to him after. He said, "Dude," he says, "the biggest waves I've ever seen in my life." He said he ended up being 8 minutes late.
Yeah, I mean, you can't rush it. And then the other problem is when you're making a big run, here's what I call the point of no return. Because you won't make it back. And so at that point, you got decisions to make. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of Lake Erie. There's nothing you could do about it. It's not the tournament director's fault. It's just how Lake Erie goes.
Yeah.
You know, we in Buffalo, there was 3 to 5 footers. It was supposed to subside to 2 to 3s, and they let us go, and it built to 10 to 12s. It's Lake Erie. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just running the troughs at that point, and then the sketchy part is getting back into the harbor where everything's breaking, right?
Well, yeah, the sketchy part of it is that when you have to tack your way back. And so sometimes you're tacking your way back and you're literally going the opposite direction to gain ground, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've got a picture back here. One of the guys, he's actually fishing. It's Rick Ash. If you remember Rick Ash?
Yeah, I know Rick.
Yeah, Rick was fishing on Lake Erie. I was out with Darren Schwinkbeck out of Buffalo in one of the Elite Series events taking photographs. And Darren's like, "Oh yeah, dude, it's like a roller coaster, man. Like we'll just get on top of run, we'll just zip right." And boy, that was an interesting life choice on my part. But we ended up going out there, and half of the guys, I got a picture of Rick Ash back there. They're just fishing, sitting down in the driver's seat, like not even on the butt seat. They're drifting a tube, sitting down in the cockpit.
Yeah, that's how I had to fish Buffalo. You couldn't stand. I literally sat on the front deck with my feet in the hole of the boat, because you couldn't get up. I mean, you could literally not get up. It was so bad. And, you know, I mean, 3 drift socks and trying to slow your drift down so you could actually fish. It was really difficult. I mean, it was one of the most difficult events I ever fished. And needless to say, one of the most treacherous.
Yeah.
It's just Lake Erie. I mean, you can't. There's nobody to blame for that except the weather. Period. Because it changes like that. For one day, Frankie and I went out walleye fishing. Listen to this. It was slick flat like a mirage. Okay, so we launched and we took off and we made a pretty decent run, and you could see storm clouds way off in the distance, and the storm clouds were literally moving kind of north, and Frankie's like, "Dude, that looks bad." I go, "Oh, they're blowing north, man. We're gonna be okay. They're not even gonna get to us." No sooner does that come out of my mouth, I go, "Holy crap, pack everything up as fast as you can. We are about to be screwed." And in about 2 minutes, we were in 6 to 7 footers and the rain was going sideways.
Wow.
And you couldn't see 5 feet in front of the boat because of the rain. And it was so hard for me to see the wave patterns. And it took us a while to get back in. We got back in. And as soon as we got back in, the sun came out and the wind stopped. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" I said, we're leaving. I'm not going back out. And the lake went flat. The lake went flat again. And so literally for like an hour and a half, it was treacherous. And then it was gone. Just like that. And so you can't predict that. There's no way. I was of the mindset, even back in the day when I fished the lake constantly, you should never have a bass tournament on that lake, just because you can't pick the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pick the day and do a last minute get together, it wouldn't be a problem, but you can't. You're relegated to this.
It's almost like you need an inland lake that's 30 minutes one way and Lake Erie that way, and everybody meets in a Walmart parking lot at 4 a.m, and the tournament director goes, "All right, we're good on Erie," and then everyone goes to the ramp and launches. If not, they go to the other lake.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's crazy. The Great Lakes are nothing to mess with, and Erie is probably the least predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And the wave patterns there. So I don't want to make this about Lake Erie, but the wave patterns there, when you get closer to the entrance of the lake, which is the Detroit River, and the exit of the lake, which is the Niagara River, okay, the wave patterns do really different things over there, because by the Detroit River, you got the current coming into the lake. So if you get any kind of eastward wind, those waves are stacked so high, they're almost unnegotiable. All right. A south wind over there could ruin you because the south wind's pushing right in the funnel of the mouth of the river and everything stacks up against the current. Well, Buffalo is just the opposite. The lake necks down as you get to the Niagara River by Buffalo, the lake necks down. So everything building from the wide central basin starts to get compressed as it gets closer to Buffalo. And those waves build like nothing I have ever seen. Nothing. They stack. They get, some are close together, some are far apart. There's spots where it looks like there's only 2 to 3 footers on a mountain of water. So like you ride up a wave and then you're in this big plateau, like where the waves aren't so big, but when you get to the other side, you're like falling off of a cliff and then you're back into the big stuff again. I mean, it was like, I'm telling you, it was like nothing I've ever seen in my life.
And there's no way to learn it than to be out it. Like you can do all you want and talk about 5 braid props and how to run troughs and stuff. But until you're in it, the only thing that it helps is if you're with someone who's been there, does that and says, you're going to be okay. But I remember my first couple times in the big, like I've never been in that stuff like you're talking about, but on Thousand Islands, on Lake Champlain.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember my first couple times where it gets your attention real quick. And the worst thing you can do is like look out on the horizon and not focus on the wave or two in front of you, because that will immediately, like I remember I would like look back and down where you could get the perspective of it. And I was like, well, not going to be doing that anymore. And I just focus on the one wave, staying on the one wave in front of me. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I'm 11 miles away. And I'm going 12 miles an hour.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, and I've like kind of broke it down into like little 2-minute chunks. And then I finally made it back in and was like, all right, well, I can say I've done that. And I don't care to intentionally ever find myself in that situation again.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's 100% true. You have to focus about 5 from your front of your boat, about 5 waves in front of you. And if you get diverted for 1 second, you'll put 500 gallons of water in your boat. I mean, that's just how it goes. And there's no teaching it. It's all by experience. And unfortunately, the unfortunate thing is, you only learn about it when you make a mistake, because you're like, well, I'm never going to do that again. You know what I mean? I'm never doing that again. And so that's what happens, you know. I've had days out there that they predicted the worst and it was beautiful. I've had days out there that was supposed to be like flat as glass and you couldn't get out of the freaking boat launch. So, you know, it's Lake Erie. I mean, that's all there is to it. A lot of the problem too is there's a lot of guys that don't fish water like that. And so the experience running that stuff, it's not like running boat waves. It's just not like running a boat wave. And so they're used to running boat waves. And, you know, then all of a sudden it's like, what happens when you spear one and fill the boat? Okay. So here's the deal, because here's a problem. Right. If you stuff one, and it loads your boat with water.
And if you do it long enough, you will stuff one. It does not matter who you are. You could be Mr. Clapper on Erie, and I promise you, he's stuffed a wave out there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because you don't understand what you did wrong until you do it wrong in rough water. And so here's what happens. Okay, you stuff a wave. Ooh, you got 500 gallons of water.
Slow motion. You got to start that though. As soon as you stuff one, everything happens. Everything immediately slows down.
Yeah.
You see the wall of water coming over. You feel your body stop. It's slow motion as this thing's coming towards you. All right, continue.
Right. And so here's the biggest mistake. You have to keep your motor running. You have to get that boat positioned so you could ride up and down the waves with the nose in the air. Because if you go sideways with all that water in your boat, if your boat goes sideways and the wave picks you up sideways like that, all the water in your boat goes to the one side of the boat and it just rolls the bass boat over on top of itself. And so you have to keep your motor running. You have to get the boat positioned so you can move with the water, nose up, and let the water take you, let the waves take you. Don't, if you get sideways in a trough with your boat full of water, it's literally going to roll right over. Because you have all that weight shifts to one side, and then the boat's heavy on one side, and the wave picks the boat up and it just flops it right over. There's nothing you could do about that. You have to keep your boat motor running, and you have to keep it in position, and you have forward progress while your bilge pumps are running. I always had them add extra bilge pumps in my boat. Always. Every bass boat I ever had extra bilge pumps in it, because you can't pump the water out fast enough.
Now, the one I've filled it up once. It was out in probably 4 minutes. But yeah, I've got the 2 bilge pumps, and I mean, right. Boom, it pumps it up. It was level, however much water you can put in it, I put in it. And 4 minutes later, I was like, holy cow, it's like, I see there's no water on the carpet. But that also depends on your boat and how many bilge pumps, what your bilge pump stuff is there. I know back in the Elite Series, when they used to go to Buffalo, you'd see guys that would have the hose that was duct taped to the side rail of their boat with the bilge pump on the block of wood in the bottom of the boat.
Yeah, 100%. That's a safety precaution, but to be honest with you, you have to know what you're doing when your boat's full of water in rough water.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you got problems. When I came back from Buffalo, we passed a couple boats that were upside down. Trolling motors up, boat upside down. My guess is stuff a wave, motor stalls, they panic, they drop the trolling motor, wave lifts the boat, plops it right over. It's not a violent flip over.
No, I was always told, so Travis Manson told me, when I was playing, and I was in an open, and I was planning on making a run the first time we were out to the islands, which I didn't go because it was too windy. And the older I've gotten, the more I've thought, hey, if something gives me an uneasy feeling and tells me this isn't smart, I don't say, oh, man up, I need to do it. I say, it's not smart, I'm going to plan B. I've done that more times than I care to know now.
Yeah, you have
never second guess myself. I'm trusting my intuition with all the years of running a boat. But what he said was, how he talks, oh, it's not a big deal. He's like, he goes, and what he told me was, and I was curious if you say this, let's say worst case scenario, you get caught out there. It feels like it's calm. This is how I've gotten caught out there. I'm behind an island. I'm smashing 4 and 5 pounders. It's gorgeous. It's still sunny. The wind's down. You start to notice, you can maybe hear the trees out on the islands a little bit, and you come out from the point, and now you have to go with the damn things in, and they're 5-footers, and you're like, what he said was, if worst case scenario happens and you do roll your boat over, he goes, the boat will never actually sink. He goes, make sure you have your kill switch in, make sure you have your life jacket on. He said, it's going to roll over. He said, you just ride the hull. He goes, that's why you have insurance on the boat. You don't leave the boat. You don't panic. He said, you try to stay you get on it like you're riding a bull. You get to the point where you can grab it, and you just let that thing. And he goes, it'll take you to the freaking bank. And he goes, and before you hit the rocks, he said, there's a really good chance that you're going to end up on a sandbar in 2.5 to 3 foot of water. You're going to stop there. You'll be able to walk to shore. He said, as long as you don't panic, he said, that's the safest way to get in if catastrophic things happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong in that. You can't leave the boat.
No, I don't think he's ever done that. But that was just his advice to me.
Well, the thing about it is, you hit the nail on the head. If you feel for any reason whatsoever you should not go, then do not go.
It's the easiest way to stay out of. If there's something in your head that says this isn't smart, it's never worth it.
It's not. It's not, because that's when you make mistakes.
Yep. Anyway, we didn't plan on 20 minutes of this, but it's about valuable stuff. Who knows what we're going to talk about?
Yeah. So I will tell you this. So I got a DM from a gentleman named Brad. I don't know if I should say his last name or not.
It's not Hallman, is it?
No.
Okay. I didn't know. I've been getting back into it.
So I'm gonna read it. where did I put it? Okay, I got it. Oh, I took Josh out the other day. He got a couple 5-pounders.
Really?
Yeah, largemouth. It was nice. All right, so I'm going to read this to you all. So it said, can we get a day 4 BTL conversation on how Lake Erie sheephead are making fishing tough, are overpopulated? I think this needs to be talked about as a fellow Cleveland native. So I decided that I was actually going to do this. So today's show is freshwater drum.
I like it.
So let's get yeah, Clay, we're gonna have some sheephead recipes.
I've ran into this issue. I'm very interested in this show because I've ran into this issue on Grand too, where
yes.
all of a sudden it's sheepshead. We call them drum,
Right.
Gasper goo, whatever.
Right.
And
right.
I've done it on St. Clair. I've done it on a lot of the Great Lakes where you're like, what the hell? How do you catch a bass through these Gasper goos?
Right. So we have to talk about the fish itself, the freshwater drum, sheephead, Gasper goo, groaner, whatever you want to call them. Okay. First of all, drum have the largest natural range of any North American freshwater fish. They literally range from Lake Winnipeg in northern Canada, northern Manitoba, south, all the way through the entire United States, Mexico, and into Guatemala. All right. It is the largest range. Now, to address the situation of why are there so many damn drum, and especially in Lake Erie, the drum is probably the most successful accidental experiment of catch and release ever done. Okay. Anglers often get angry when they catch them. They learn a new vocabulary when they keep catching them, and they pretty much hate the fish. Okay. And a lot of anglers actually blame the freshwater drum for not catching bass. But I want to get into that part of this in a minute because we got some other things that we need to cover around these beautiful, endearing fish that we have. It's so funny, man. I hear guys complaining, screaming, and moaning all the time about this. About these drum, and it's very funny. I had a note that I wanted to make, and for some apparent reason I can't find it.
I'm pulling up some action shots of freshwater drum.
Yeah, okay. So I got it. So here's the other thing about sheephead, drum, whatever. Their average weight is from 10 to 30 pounds. Fish over 40 pounds are very possible. Now, here's something that I didn't know, and I researched it because I was curious, okay? The rod and reel world record drum was 54 and a half pounds. And you won't even believe where it was caught, dude. It was caught in Lake Nickajack in Tennessee.
No way.
Yeah, 1972. 54 and a half pound drum.
That is like a truck.
Dude, that is like hooking a car bumper. So at any rate, so contrary to everybody's, the popular belief, drum are not actually bottom dwellers at all. They eat the same food source that walleye and bass eat. They eat a few extra things that the bass and walleyes don't eat, like zebra mussels and small clams and stuff like that. But for the most part, their diet is the same diet as almost every game fish. Now, the freshwater drum taste. This is we're going down the food chain here.
Did not expect the words freshwater drum and taste to come out.
Correct. So the freshwater drum actually, yeah, dude, you could have knocked the sides off of that bad boy. That's a good one, dude. So the freshwater drum actually tastes a lot like its saltwater cousin, the redfish. Drum are not a bony fish. They don't have Y bones. Um, if you were going to fillet one to eat it, you just fillet it, and then you just simply remove the dark skin that's by the lateral line. You just cut that off, and you have a very high quality meat. The meat's loaded with protein. The meat, the flesh is thick and firm. It's very similar to a redfish. Now I'm going down this rabbit hole for a reason, okay? Because just bear with me. Hey Matt, just take this train with me, will you?
I haven't said anything.
No, but you're laughing and you're throwing me off my game, bro. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going here. So the hardiness of this meat lends itself to tons of different cooking techniques. The fish is very mild tasting, and you could here's how diverse this chunk of fillet could be. You could fry it, you could bake it, you could use it in chowders. It's used to make fake crab dishes. It plays the freshwater drum, believe it or not, plays a huge role in many Cajun and Creole dishes. Okay, Matt's leaving. Matt's out of the building. So I'm going to keep going, Matt, whether you leave or not. Apparently he's disgusted by this. So the firmness of the meat can even substitute for lobster if you boil it and you dunk it in butter. It's also known as the poor man's lobster. I have a buddy of mine. He used to own the rod shop. His name is Ray. He took sheep head back straps, cubed them, boiled them, chilled them in the refrigerator, and dipped them in shrimp sauce. And honest to God, you can hardly taste the difference. I mean, because I ate them, you could hardly taste the difference. So enough of the cooking channel and freshwater drum. But if guys would kind of go, to the drum game and start killing a few and eating them, maybe we wouldn't have 500,000 of them every time you go fishing. So now we're going to get to the meat of the question. Drum and bass, and to be more specific, smallmouth bass. So I'm going to tell you what I know personally from my personal experience. So whatever anybody has to say about it, this is just from my personal experience growing up on Lake Erie and fishing all the time. Okay. I got to catch my breath. I'm a little dehydrated and possibly maybe a little feeling the effects.
A little keyed up from just the thought of that delicious flaky white drum meat hitting the pan.
Nothing cures a hangover like a fresh drum fillet. So it's kind of like a cold squirrel sandwich after the hunt.
Can we get a shirt of just you with a drum on it instead of the bass? Forget the bass drawings. Let's go with the old bugle lips drawing.
Absolutely. So when smallmouth fishing, oh my God, I'm struggling through this, boys.
You're doing great.
So when smallmouth fishing on the Great Lakes, all right, you guys know we talk about this all the time. I'm concentrating on hard structure, glacier deposits, rock piles, steep break lines, big rock sand flats that go way out into the lake and then drop off. Okay, we know that because we've talked about it a million times. So here's what happens if I come in contact with an occasional drum. I don't really get concerned about it. 2 reasons. One, there's not a whole school of them where I'm fishing. And the other is they eat the same baits that smallmouth eat. So I know I'm in the right place because the one thing I know about drum is they're never not where the food is. Mm-hmm. So I don't get concerned. Now, that being said, if I'm catching a drum on every third cast, it's time to go. And when I say it's time to go, I don't mean necessarily leave the structure you're fishing, but you got to move around on it, because a lot of times some of the stuff you're fishing is very small and minute. In that instance, you bail because there's too much drum and there's way too much competition for the bass. Now, here comes the cool part. All right. If I'm fishing a ledge line, all right, a break line, I fish my way down the break line. Even though I found the bass where the drum are and the drum moved in, I'm going to fish my way down this break line because the bass are going to be somewhere where the drum thin out and they don't have to compete for food so much. The second thing I'm going to do is because we have live scope now, and this is an enormous help. So with the live scope, I'm going to start scanning around where I was fishing before I leave it, away from the structural element. Drunkwood. I'm going to scan around away from the structural element. Okay. And sometimes what you'll see is the bass will suspend at the same height that the top of the structure was. They slide off of it. They suspend at the same depth range, maybe 20, 30 yards away from all the commotion from all the drum. I don't know why they do it. I don't know if they're waiting for the drum to move on. I don't know. I don't know why they do it, but they do it. Now, the third thing you got to do is you got to check other places in the same depth range that you were catching the smallmouth, because clearly they were using that depth range. So let's say, for example, you fished, I don't know, 15 to 20 feet. And most of what you're catching is sheephead once you start to explore. So now you got to understand something. Now you're on a sheephead pattern. You got the depth that the sheephead want to be in. The 15 to 20 foot range is inundated with them. Now it's time to use this as a big clue, because now you have to start moving deeper. And so you keep going deeper until you locate the smallmouth. So here's what happens when the smallies get pushed. There's going to be a dead zone where you're catching the drum. You were catching smallmouth there. Now you're catching the drum. Now you're working your way deeper. There's going to be a spot that's almost void of both drum and smallmouth. Don't panic. You got to keep moving out, because there's going to come a spot. There's not a spot, not a location, but a depth range where all of a sudden you're going to start catching smallmouth again. And you're not going to be catching the drum with them. So that's the big clue. All right. As that drum bite decreases, as you're moving your way out, your smallmouth bite is going to increase. Now, certain times of the year, it's going to be the opposite. You're going to have to go shallower for it. But you're going to have to use that pretty much. You're going to have to judge that pretty much by the season that you're fishing. But that's the real deal with the drum. I've won a Redman tournament up there one time, and the first cast I made, I caught a monster drum, and didn't catch another drum after a few casts. And the next cast I made, I caught a 5.5 pound smallmouth. So one or two sheephead in an area doesn't ruin the whole thing. I've seen smallmouth and walleye cohabitate on the same structure, where you're catching a smallmouth and you're catching a walleye. For some reason, it doesn't run them off. Northern pike is a completely different situation. I've been in lakes where I start catching pike and I can't catch a bass. Literally cannot catch a bass.
Now, 2 years ago, I was out, or a year and a half ago, I was out, and Michael Simonton and I just had a day out on Erie, and we were drifting drop shots and tubes on 20-foot glacial deposits, and sheepshead, and he just cranked up and moved a quarter mile. Sheepshead, cranked up and moved And he's like, we just got to find one where the sheep's head haven't taken it over. Now, he wasn't making long moves. He wasn't changing it, but he was going out. He was going in. He was doing exactly what you just described to find. He was staying in the same area, but he was making adjustments to get away from the biomass of sheep's head because he knew that the smallmouth were there. And I guess the previous week he had been out, the areas we were catching the sheep's head, he said, we're all smallmouth.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And I don't, it's not that they're afraid of the fish because they won't eat them.
Mm-hmm.
The sheephead won't eat the bass. Clearly, they don't have mouths big enough to swallow them. But I think it's what you said, Matt. It's the biomass is so great. The competition for food is so great. The smallmouth don't have to bother with that. I mean, smallmouth can move huge distances in the shortest amount of time. Like, you would be super surprised how far they can travel in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Actually, I can't read that. My screen's tiny.
Yeah.
I can't read that.
Lincoln said, what if you're on a pile of sheepies that are already deep, 50 feet? I was getting them every drop of a blade. Should I go shallower?
Yeah, because you're already getting to the depth range where you're dicey on the number of smallmouth. Now, I'm not going to say they don't go 60 feet deep or deeper, because they do. But you're also you have to use your live scope, because a lot of times when the smallmouth are out there and they want to be out there, they'll just suspend.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to use your scope to
see
that.
This is my experience. I've looked at a lot of drum and bass and gar and stuff on scope, just suspended like that. From my experience, and I'm not saying this is 100%, this is just me, I saw someone ask that, is a drum will be, if you're scoping them with a minnow, with a drop shot, whatever, a drum will be much less likely to change water columns rapidly. Mm-hmm. They tend to stay on the same plane.
That's true.
And they will chase your bait, but they will typically chase it on that same plane. It's the same with a minnow. It's oftentimes you will not get a drum to go like this or to go up onto your bait and get it. It's when you drop the bait down to it and you're reeling it over, it is when the drum will bite it. I found that you can kind of tell the difference based on how those fish are following and how they're reacting. A smallmouth, a largemouth, especially when it's hunting, when it's looking for bait fish, will change water columns on your forward-facing sonar. You'll see them rip up, you'll see them go down. You'll basically see them look like they're hunting. The drum are typically more static and slow and calculated moving. They're not moving nearly as fast or changing water columns. Also, the only thing you'll see them do also is they will peel off. If you have it on your plane and then they don't eat it or they just nip it, you'll see them peel off, but they don't dart. They slow peel. The bass tend to dart and move and will circle back on it. A drum will more, if your bait's here and the drum is here, the drum will hit it and then you'll see it kind of peel off down that. Whereas a bass will go like this and then you'll see it spin back around. You very rarely see rapid movements by drum on your forward facing.
Yeah, I will attest to that 1,000%. I was out this spring scoping and I scoped some drum and that's exactly what they do.
The other thing that I'll notice, if you're looking at a school, and this is big on Grand Lake, you'll have schools of hybrids that are moving rapidly. You'll have schools of crappie that are suspended typically around some sort of brush. You'll have schools of blue cats that are on the bottom, but you'll see a ton more when you hook one, and you can actually see them snake back down. You can see their body like segment move when it goes down. But the drum, you get around a bass, a spotted bass, a largemouth, a group of bass, and you hook one out of it, whether it's on a ledge, a drop, a depression, anything. You will see all of those fish react in a way. It will be almost like a little bit of a firework. Even if it doesn't spook them, you'll see those fish react. There'll be 2 or 3 that chase it. When you get around a school of drum, you'll get it down there and you'll be working, you'll be casting it, you'll get one's attention. And when you hook it, you'll watch that thing down there fighting on it. The other fish will not rapidly move. They will not pay any attention to the fish that is hooked. That's a great sign. Like, a lot of times you'll hook one and you'll lose it. But if the other fish don't move around it, to me, that's a school of drum. And then sure enough, you'll catch one. Their bites usually dong. I mean, they smoke it. You think it's a 3 or 4 pounder, but you don't ever see those fish, the school of fish, like a game fish. They do not follow the hooked fish. They don't react to the hooked fish. They kind of stay right where they are.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a really good way to tell what you got.
Yep.
With live scope, because like logistically, you almost can't tell the difference unless you're close and you're at like 45 or 50 feet, and then you can almost see the body shape. Yep. The tail separation of a big drum could be a giveaway, but I've seen, especially with you, Matt, on one of them lakes we were at, I've seen tail separation on largemouth that I'd be like, no, that ain't a largemouth. Mm-hmm. That's a carp or a drum.
And you can tell when it gets following it. Is that thing following it up? Is it following it down? Right. Is it making a quick turn back on it? Where is it positioned? How many of them are on it? Like it
yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Now I'll be honest with you. When the kids were younger, I took them out by my house. I used to live on the lake, and if the lake was flat and I could see out the window, because the lake was literally across the street. If the lake was flat, I'd grab Frankie, Josh, and go, let's go. We're gonna go fish today. And then so I was going out, and I was idling around, and I came over a school 2D sonar, no side imaging, no live scope. This is years ago, and I went out, and I'm like, that's a pile of sheephead.
Mm-hmm.
And Frankie, of course, how do you know? And I'm like, well, because I know, you know what I mean? I know. Mm-hmm. He goes, those weren't sheep. I said, okay. I spun the boat around. I got back on them. Both him and Josh, they got their drop shots out. They're both hooked up immediately with giant drum. And so they were having a ball. So I said, you guys want to stay here and catch them? They're like, yeah. And so I said, all right. So I let them catch. I don't even know how many they caught. There was a pretty good school of them. And so I got kind of irritated after a while. I'm like, can we go look for smallmouth now? And they're like, yeah, okay. So I'm idling around. Long and short of the story is I found a small group of fish. I go, oh, damn, those are smallies. And of course, Frankie, because he's got to question everything. He's like, how do you know? I said, throw your drop shot down there, Slick. He throws the drop shot down there, and it doesn't even make it to the bottom. And his line is running, and it's coming right back up. 3-pounder comes flying out of the water. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. You know the difference. And I was like, yeah.
The other way to know for sure, that's what I've been looking for is, so I took my buddy Darren up to Thousand Islands last summer. And for the last 3 times I've been there, there's a spot on the Canadian side. It's a current break in 25 foot of water. River channel comes through. There's a backwater right there. It drops off. And right on that drop, there are hundreds of marks. And I've caught smallmouth there every time, but never the amount that are there, but you'll get one that'll follow a jerk bait. You'll catch enough smallmouth to be like, my God, have I found a biomass of smallmouth? So we were fun fishing. This is no joke. I did this. We're about to put in, we pass a gas station. It says live bait. I said, I'll be right back. I park the truck. I go in, I buy a dozen night crawlers. We fish throughout the day. I have the night crawlers in the box. We get close to that spot. I said, I got to check something. Roll over there, take the flatworm off, put the head of a night crawler on, pitch a drop shot, half ounce. It goes down. I mean, doesn't even get to the bottom. Donk. I said, we're going to find out what these are. Wham, 4-pound drum. Darren's like, what? I said, okay, rig another night crawler. Doesn't even get to the bottom. 4-pound. It was 3,000 4 to 7-pound drum that have been in the exact same current seam behind an island on Thousand Islands for the last 5 years.
That's bad to the bone, dude.
I caught 2 or 3, and I mean, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know. Were they walleye? Were they smallmouth? What were they? They were drum.
Yeah, but that's a good way to tell, man.
Yeah,
live crawler.
Good question for Mitch. These things are prevalent around the TVA. Does the same logic apply to main river channels? My buddy and I always joke that we catch a drum. There's big smallies around. Not usually the case for us.
Yeah, it does. It apply anywhere drum live. This applies. Anywhere they live, this applies. They have a tendency to really pack together, and they have a tendency to travel in groups. And so what happens is once they take over a piece of cover or structure, nothing is going to stay to compete for the food. They're savages, man. They're just meat eaters, and so nothing is going to compete with them for the food. So you got to bail. Now, one or two in an area doesn't mean anything, like we said earlier.
Like you said, it's the
groups. If you like Matt, you said you threw down there, boom, you got one. You threw down there, boom, you got one. That's the problem. Okay, that's when you know it's.
And they'll let you know.
Oh, they don't. They're not shy. And here, and for you, because the one question, the guy was throwing metal on them, clearly. If you throw anything shiny on them, you're catching them. You're flat out catching them. When I spoon fish a lot on the Great Lakes, and I'll double pump that spoon, and when that rod stops, you know in 1 second what you got, because you can't move it, and usually they're the biggest drum in the school, and you can't move it, and you know what it is, and by the second or third drop in your second or third drum, you're like, I'm out. And like I said, out doesn't mean like pick up and run 50 miles somewhere else. That just means you got to go down that break farther, or you got to find a closer piece of structure where those smallmouth used to be. So that's the whole key with
now. Let me ask you this: let's say you have a smaller jerkbait, like a junior size, like a 4-inch 3/8 ounce jerkbait, perhaps a new jerkbait. Will drum eat that?
Oh,
like
God,
let's say perhaps it's the brand new ICAST release Booyah Flashpoint Junior jerkbait, now available on lurenet.com.
Okay, so I like the segue. So we're going to get into this because I fish a lot of jerkbaits. I fish them pretty much year round, and there are times when I'm bass fishing where the bass don't want the bigger profile, and so the flash mob. I mean,
Flashpoint.
The Flashpoint. The normal here, I'm going to show you the difference.
Oh, you've got both of them. Sweet.
Yeah,
I was interested to see that because I am a big, full disclosure, I am a big 110+1 junior fan. So like if I'm throwing a jerkbait and I've got it, I will have one of the normal size and one of the junior on, and there does seem to be a massive difference at times.
There is a massive difference, and I'm the same way. So the bottom one is the junior.
A little bit other way. Okay.
The bottom one is the junior. The top one is the big one. So the bottom one's a 4-inch bait. Now,
and when you say 4 inches as a bait painter and designer, that is the body of the bait that is being measured, not the bill.
Correct, not the bill. It's the body. So here's the cool thing. So I am a very big proponent when I am jerkbait fishing. I will have different size jerkbaits on. When I know I'm catching them on jerkbaits, I'll have a perfect 10 on, which is a giant one. I'll have the Flashpoint on, the Flashpoint deep, and I'll have the junior. Now I was fortunate enough to get the juniors before they released, so I had ample opportunities to fish them early spring, right at ice out. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Live scope to me was the greatest thing on earth because I'm a crankbait freak machine. Okay. I can see exactly how deep my crankbaits are running on what pound test line, which is super paramount because if I'm fishing heavy cover with a crankbait, I can up the line size knowing that my DD22 or my Fat Free 7, I can shrink the depth diving range on it and run it through the cover, shallower cover. So jerkbait fishing is the same exact thing for me. So I use 8-pound fluoro, 10-pound fluoro, and 12-pound fluoro on my jerkbaits. And it's all predicated on how deep I need the bait to get. I have no problems throwing a jerkbait on 8-pound line. I have zero problems with that. I land almost all of my fish, including fish I don't want to catch, like sheephead, pike, and muskies. All right.
Unless you're hungry, then you're the sheephead are going straight in the box.
Right. Exactly. So I'm going to talk about. I'm not talking about the regular flash mob, but stay with me because I have a trick I have to show you guys, and you're going to lose your mind. It's a great tip. So anyway, I'm talking about the Flashpoint Junior Deep, and the Flashpoint Junior. Now the Deep on 8-pound line, I wrote it down because I did this on LiveScope. On 8-pound line, I can get the Junior Deep 10, 11 feet, which is absolutely critical. Because here's what happens. Remember, we talk about how a bass can see 3 times the distance underwater, in one direction. If they can see both directions, so realistically, they can see 6 times the distance, but in one direction, they can see 3. So anyhow, if a bass is suspending in 15 feet of water, and I know I can get this bait down 11, that bass only has to travel 4 feet to get the jerk bait. So you're putting this right in their wheelhouse. You're putting it right where they feed. They're always feeding up. When you're throwing jerk baits, you're never fishing for bass that are feeding down. They're always feeding up, especially if they're suspended. Now, on 10-pound line, I can get the Junior down around 9 feet. And on 12-pound line, I can get the thing down about 8 to 9. It depends. Sometimes I make a good cast and I can get it down to 9 on 12. Which is very important. The other thing that is important to know is it doesn't affect the action of this bait. It has the same action on 8 as it does on 10 as it does on 12. And that's the important part. Because if you bump up line size and it changes the action, now you got a problem. Because you want the bait to quiver at rest. It'll quiver with the water current. If you tap the rod a little bit, it wiggles on its axis. It darts left and right.
There it is, right there.
Right, and it stays there. So that's important to know. That the Flashpoint Junior shallow dives down around 5 to 6 feet. You could get it a little bit deeper on 8-pound line, but for the most part, it's about 5 to 6. And so that's what you want to know about this. Now I'm going to show you something here because this is what I love. All right. So the Flashpoint has a metal blade in the head, which flashes sunlight like a spinnerbait blade. As the bait pitches and rolls, it flashes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Also, it makes it easier to see on LiveScope. So the bait really stands out on scope. I mean, you could see it plain as day. But here's things that I've noticed. On some of the super clear lakes, I don't necessarily want the highest flash content I can get out of it. So I want to dull it, mute it. So here's what I do. I'll show you. This is great. I just take a Sharpie and I'm going to take the blade and I'm going to take the Sharpie and I'm just going to color the blade with the Sharpie. And so here's what happens. Now I used a green one on this because it's a greenback. Now I put the green tint on the blade. So now when my blade flashes, it's going to flash a tint of green, not a bright silver or gold. Okay? That's this I'm just telling you guys this trick. You're going to lose your mind because you could change the look of the bait now. And so with the blue back ones, I just take a blue Sharpie and I do the same thing on the blue back ones. And now I've got, it flashes blue. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a blue chrome, blue nickel.
So it's based on what your bait fish is, whether it's a herring, a threadfin shad, a bluegill, whatever you're doing, you can kind of just get the right.
Right. And so here, so pink is a big thing right now. I don't know if you could see the pink pearls in this bait on the back.
Dude, I'm not kidding. I was about to ask you about that. That's that color right there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What is that color? That color looks awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's fabulous. I don't remember. You have to click on it and get the real name of the color.
Actually, it doesn't actually show. I've got a pro pink, maybe.
Maybe I'll have to
that's
look.
not it.
It's not it. It's Just click on the down bar and then.
I'm clicking on all of them. Oh, Chrome Dome.
Yeah. Okay. So here, so it's got the pink hues on the back, right?
Yep.
So I take a pink Sharpie. Now watch this, because this is bad to the bone, man.
Lucky Craft way back in the day used to have a similar color to that with like some of the shades. Holy cow, that looks awesome.
I do the pink on it now, and so now I've got a pink chrome flash. So it's not going to flash a bright, super bright flash, but it's going to throw that hue range out there. And that's my trick with these flash points. I've been doing that since the day I got them, and it's been remarkable. So the weird thing is, the first time I got the original flash point, jerkbait season was pretty much, for the most part, done. We were literally in the middle of summer, and I went fishing with a buddy of mine. We were actually on Lake Erie, and I grabbed the flash point, and there was this one section where it was around one of the marina mouths where the weed beds were deep. They were 8 to 9 feet deep, and I picked up the flash point, and of course I worked them much faster than I would if it was cold weather conditions, and just slaughtered them. I mean, slaughtered them. And I was like, holy smokes, man, this bait's got something going here. And then when I got them, I got them in the summer, so I had an opportunity to fish them in the cold water periods. And it's special. I mean, it's special. So, but that was my trick. I really wanted to show you the trick more than anything, because
that's cool.
You get a lot more. You could literally customize these things to your fishing conditions. You could use chartreuse dye pen on the blade, and it'll dye it like a chrome chartreuse. You could do so much with it, and the cool thing about it is over time that color will wear off. And so if you want to go back to the original color, you could literally wipe it off, and you'll go back to silver or gold, whatever the blade is. Yeah. It's a really great trick, and believe me when I tell you, the cleaner the water, the more it works. So that's just something to keep in the back of your head when you're, especially if you're smallmouth fishing on some of those super clean lakes. That could be the difference between getting a bite and not getting a bite.
Are you more likely to use that junior in the spring when the shad are a little bit smaller, the water's colder, they don't need to use as much of metabolism to finish it? Like I've always been, when are you going to go with the bigger? When are you going to be more likely to trend towards that junior size as opposed to the regular size?
Yeah. So here's the thing that's screwed up about it. Okay. Generally speaking, I'm always going to say match the hatch, generally speaking. I fish a lot in the cold weather months, a ton. And I have seen days where they won't touch a big jerkbait. You have to throw the little one to catch them. And I've seen days completely the opposite, where if you're not throwing a giant jerkbait, you're not catching nothing. So it's all trial and error. Like here, I'll tell you a true story. I had to film a video. And the Perfect 10, we all know about the Perfect 10. It was designed for bass fishing, but the walleye guys got it. And that was the end of the game for bass on the Smithwick Perfect 10. So I had to film a video. And the reality of it is the bass were flash mob junior oriented. And we've been wrecking them on a flash mob. I went to there's this one lake, there's 4 places where they winter in mass. And I went there, and there was no fish there. The word got out, pressure got big, bass scattered, and so I had to go rethink what I was doing. I went to a neck down, and I could see some bass. I couldn't see a lot of them, but I could see some of them. So I had my little jerk baits on because I was also catching them on the small jerk baits.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over there and started throwing the small jerk baits, and I wasn't catching them. And I went to the perfect 10 and I pumped it down the depth. I shook the rod tip twice and the rod loaded, and it was a giant bass. And so we wound up filming the video there. It took us about 15 minutes to get the video. And it was a bass cast.
You went catching, not fishing.
100%. So I said, let's get the B-roll done. So we got all the B-roll done. And the B-roll takes longer to shoot than the actual video because you have to have footage that corresponds to what you're doing so it's more visually appealing. So it shows the story. So if there was no vocabulary in the video has to show the story. And so I asked my cameraman, because this was December 29th or December 30th.
Holy cow.
So I asked my cameraman, I said, how much time do you got? Because it was getting close to New Year's Eve. So, how much time you got? He goes, I could probably fish for a half hour. I said, here. And I gave him a rod, and we absolutely plastered them. And a friend of mine was actually fishing on the very same lake on the very same day. And he caught 3. And we caught so many, I don't know how many we caught, right? So he asked me how I was catching them. And I said, I was catching them on a jerk bait. He goes, no, you weren't. I said, yeah, I was. And he goes, I was throwing a jerk bait all day. I could barely catch a fish on it. I said, what were you throwing? And he was throwing an old jerk bait that they don't make anymore. That's 3 1/8 inches long. And I said, I was catching them all on a Smithwick Perfect 10. He goes, no, you weren't. Big. I go, yeah, I was. I said, you'll see the video when it comes out. And so that's what I mean about what the bass are preferring on a day. There's not always a rule of thumb. It applies. It definitely applies. If the bait's smaller, throw smaller. But it doesn't always mean that's what's going to happen. So with jerkbait fishing, you have to have the different sizes on. Now, here's the important thing: the junior, the Flash Mob Junior, and the Flash Point Junior and the regular Flash Point, I can get them down the same depth on 8-pound line. So I know I can get the little one down as same depth range I'm getting the big one down. And that's what's important to me, because it's more about depth.
Because then if the fish is reacting to the size of the bait and not because you're in a different water column, so you're giving them the same offering and they're showing a preference over one. Now you've dialed it in even more. So now you've located the fish and you've dictated or found out what their preference is without any other variable that may dictate whether they're biting or not.
100%. 100%. Because when you're it would
juice.
It would do you no good to be fishing in 2 to 5 feet of water, throwing a tiny jerk bait that only dives down 2.5, 3 feet, to go over 15 feet of water and throw that little jerk bait.
I do that a lot, Frank. So like when I'm scoping fish on timber, jerk baiting on timber, I'll have a regular size jerk bait tied on, and I'll have it on 10, 8 or 10. Mm-hmm. And then I'll have the +1 junior, or the +1 junior. I haven't thrown the Flash Point Junior yet, but I'll have that +1 junior, and I will put that on 12 or 14, and I can get those baits to the exact same depth. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I was like, that's how I compensated. I get those baits to the exact same depth using the line diameter to keep that little bait shallow, but I need the deeper bill to get it to the same depth as that 6-7 foot that I'm getting out of it with the 8 or 10 pound test. Makes perfect sense. That is a teaching moment right there, Frank.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's see. I think what happens is, and I see this a lot. I see it a lot with chatterbait fishing. people think it's a chatterbait. You cast it out and reel it in. And I was fishing with a buddy of mine, and I was pile driving him on the chatterbait. And he's like, well, I don't understand. I'm throwing the same thing you're throwing. I can't catch nothing. I said, you're just casting it out and reeling it in. I'm dragging mine on the bottom like a football jig. And I'm working it real slow. And I said that it's completely two different baits. You know what I mean? If you're throwing one and you're burning it back, you ain't even touching the bottom. You ain't close to the bottom. If I'm doing it slow and I'm dragging it on the bottom, so it's a depth issue.
You don't know if that has size, color, what the deal is. You have to make a comparable thing with comparable things in either different size or different colors with the same retrieve to see if there's a difference. Otherwise, you have a lot of variables that are impacting your bite ratio.
100%. And so the line diameter, whenever I'm jerkbait fishing and I have multiple jerkbaits on my boat, there'll be different sizes and different depths, but my line diameters are also different because I use the line diameter to control my depth.
Yeah.
That's the whole key.
This is a novelty line. This is the visible tomato line from Sunline. It's literally the color of tomato. But I just want to run through this for those. We talk about line diameter a lot. I don't think we've ever actually shown it. You talk about how you don't care what brand of line it is. You want a comparable line diameter. When you were making the switch, when silver thread started to run out of your silver thread, and you're making the switch to Sunline, we had a lot of off the record conversations, and what you were talking with me about was line diameter, not pound test. So you were looking through the different types, the crank FC, the sniper, the shooter, and you wanted to know the line diameter. So on your line, where you have it right here, take a second, underneath that 4, you'll see, and you'll see right there, it says 0.0330 millimeters. That's what you're looking at to where you're comparing the line diameter. So you can have an 8-pound test that is the same diameter as some 12-pound test. It is a completely unscientific in America as far as the diameters. Now in Japan, true diameter line, where they measure it throughout, it's a standard across the board. But that's where you're looking for as far as matching your diameters with your baits to get it deeper. So I know there's a lot of guys who have a lot of different lines, and their 8 may not be the same as their 12 or their 10. Right. You want to look at that diameter, and that will dictate how deep your line will get. And then also whether it's monofilament, a copolymer, a fluorocarbon, that also will impact it as well. So there's a little.
Right. And I do not jerk bait with monofilament.
Yeah. Or visible tomato.
Or visible tomato. I've never even seen it. Seen that line.
It's for uni, I think. It's for like a saltwater fish. I don't know what it is. I got a whole. That was my. Look at the color of that line.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Holy smokes, man.
Dude, it's monofilament.
But yeah, so in a nutshell, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. With the jerk baits, but I wanted to show you the trick with the blade on the head, because not only does it work, it shows up so good on forward facing, but you can alter the appearance of it simply with a Sharpie, and it's a game changer. Believe me. I mean, you could do anything you want with it, any color you want. It'll come through. It'll look like chromed. It'll look like a chromed color, whatever color you put on it. So I really, that was one trick I really wasn't going to get into, but it was too cool not to share it.
Yeah, no, that speaking of colors, we got a couple more things and we'll wrap it up for the day. It's been a really awesome show, Frank. I thought we really started at a low point with the drum, but we've recovered nicely from our drum recipes at the beginning. Speaking of colors, one of the things that Yum has come out with in the FF Sonar Minnow iCast is going on right now is several new colors in the Sonar Minnow. I'll hijack the show at this point. One of the things I really like about it, I am huge on my minnows on two-toned colors. Me and you have had this conversation. Yes. When that bait is down there and rolling, I want a lateral line in it. I want to see a difference. I want to see that minnow roll and these new colors. Look at how crisp and clear that line is on a lot of these. And some of these are the older colors, but on those new colors, that I think is key.
The new colors are at the bottom. There's 6 new colors. If you go to the line that says color line and click on it.
Glacier minnow.
Yeah. So here I want to. So I love the glacier minnow color because it's kind of marbled and mottled, yep. and the pearls in it. That to me looks very natural. That color there is milkshake. Or milkshaker.
Milkshaker.
So here,
lateral line in it, two-toned.
Correct. So here, that one, highlight that one because that'll be a smallmouth machine, especially if you add a little tiny touch of chartreuse on the rear end of it. The next one is Shadow Shad. That is a definitive lateral line, and it almost has a belly to it. Now the next 2 colors I want to talk about, Gold Rush and Pro Green Pearl. Smallmouth, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. Gold Rush and Pro Green Pearl. And I really, really like the Pro Green Pearl a lot.
Oops. I've hit everything but the Pro Green Pearl. There you go. Oh yeah. That's definitely got shiner, goby, it's got perch, it's got all sorts of different vibes in it.
That to me is emerald shiner at its finest. Emerald shiners are not always green. They're a real muddy looking color. What's green on the emerald shiner is the pearls. Mm-hmm. And that color there is,
so you're not going to find a better deal than that. That's $3.99 for a pack of those, and then you use capital BTL 25, which these are regularly priced. So I would assume that's 15% off that you use at checkout on that, and you're $3.50 a bag on these things.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy because I was using the middle size. The middle size one is a chatterbait trailer. And wrecking them on it. Mm-hmm. And I like the small one a lot because when I'm scoping with it, I have a really good opportunity for both bass and crappie with it. Yeah. And I catch a lot on it. But I throw it on a real light head. I don't overweight it.
1/8 ounce.
Yeah, 8/16 and 3/32.
3/32, really light. Then. Yeah. All right, we'll close it with this. I think this is legit. The name's a little sketchy. Jiggle McJiggles Pants. He said, He said, I've never watched this in video format. Always wild to see someone's face who have heard hundreds of hours of talking from. Frank looks nothing like I envisioned in my mind.
Yeah, well, Frank doesn't look nothing like I envisioned in my mind this morning.
So we've got that. If that's possibly more what you envisioned Frank looking like, that is also vintage Frank Scalish. I do not have the life jacket mullet photo, unfortunately, but we do have that one for Mr. Jiggles.
I just can't. My son Josh has hair like I had when I was a kid, and I keep reminding him of that. I said, enjoy it while you got it, Slick. Because
I say this in the most least awkward way possible. There's certain guys who look good with the shaved head, and you're one of them, Frank.
All right. Yeah, me and Telly Savalas. For those of you who don't know, look them
up. Valid question here. Is there a hard date on the next Signature Series release when that returns to the LureNet website?
I don't have an actual release date, but I can tell you it's coming up, and I don't know if it's going to be a couple of months yet, but I will announce it here first before it actually breaks. I will actually give you a heads up on them, and then I've got a lot of limited run stuff coming out. I've been working, I've been wearing my airbrush out for the last 2 seasons, and there's a lot of colors coming down the pipe, And I have been, in full disclosure, I have been fishing them now for a year, and I am absolutely flat out catching them on it.
I've seen some of it. It's some like, you have a uncanny ability of going, oh, well, that's the best craw pattern. That's the best shad pattern. That's the best crappie, bluegill. That's the best whatever pattern that you could paint. And it's, your painting is a prime example of, like, you can always do something new, because
oh yeah,
it's unbelievable. Some of the new stuff, you're like I said, you're like, oh, well, that St. Clair craw, you can't do a better craw than that. And then you come out with something new and you're like, okay, at this point, you're just showing off. Like, it's art. Like, you feel obligated to spend the $8 just to, like, have it on your wall in your tackle shop, just to look at it.
Yeah. So there's a surprise color to me. I designed it specifically for Great Lakes smallmouth. I had a bee in my bonnet, and I did it a while ago. When I say a while ago, what's that?
I haven't heard that one. That sounds like an old school saying.
Yeah, it sounds stupid, so I'll never say that again, ever. So I had an idea, and I made this color, and I went out smallmouth fishing with it, and the first smallmouth I caught was over 5. The second one was almost 6, and the third one was over 4 on it. I'm like, okay, I've seen enough to know that they want it. I was filming a video first or second week in June this year, and the watercolor was a little different than I was used to, and I put on that color I made for smallmouth, and I absolutely wrecked them. The largemouth, I wrecked them beyond belief. And I went back a couple days later, because when you're making a video, it's all about the video and the teaching moment in that video. And I had left some stones unturned, and I needed to go back. And I went back, and I was plastering them. And I put a 6/8 in the boat, and I literally jumped one off bigger than that by a lot. And I was by myself, and I literally started shaking, because I was like, that's probably my 4th biggest bass of my life. And I caught the stupid thing in Ohio, and I was literally shaking, and there was nobody with me. Nobody saw it. Matt, I got him up to the boat. You know how you fight them, and they dog you.
Oh yeah. Where you're going, no, and you lose them right when you think, oh my God, I've got it. That's when they come off every single time. Either that or the first tarpon jump, or the moment you think you've got them.
Right. So he's dogging me, and he's literally underneath my boat, and I got 3/4 of the rod under the water. All right. Mm-hmm. And he starts coming up, and he gives it to me. She's like, you know how they come up and they're like, oh yeah, you won, I quit. It's coming up. So I drop down one knee on my driver's seat. I lift the rod up. I've got this crankbait hanging on the side of his face, so I got to go to belly grab him. I go to belly grab him, and it flies like 3 feet out of the water right in front of my face and comes right off. And I was like, because it's not like I didn't get a view of it. Like, it almost hit me in the face. And I was like, oh my God. And I just literally started shaking. And I went, oh, well, and fired out another cast, because I ain't catching that one today. So, yeah, it was really cool. So I do fish of just about every color I paint, to be honest with you.
That triggered some things in me. There's nothing worse than losing the fish of a lifetime when you're by yourself.
Oh, dude.
Because no one believes, there's nothing worse than losing the fish of a lifetime. There's a lot of things worse. That's a first world problem. We're out fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
Who gives a damn? You lost a big fish. Doesn't change your life one way or the other, unless it's to win a classic or open or tournament or whatever. But that being said, it's so much. I would much rather lose the fish of a lifetime with a buddy in the boat So for the
100%.
like, at least you're getting some value out of that. Then now you're not just a crotchety dude who's exaggerating by 5 pounds, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it was an 8-pound smallmouth. I'm sure it was a 10-pound largemouth." And then you're like, "Whatever, no one likes that." But when you're around a bunch of guys, and you're like, "Hey, remember that fish?" And the other dude, like, he knows his assignment, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, wait till you hear that. Now you've got everybody in it." And now,
because you have the validation.
Yeah,
it's someone to validate the story.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what
Now
I mean?
it becomes an integral part, and you're like, and it jumped, and I'm the guy's standing, I'm standing there, and he's like, "I swear to God, guys, it was the biggest bass I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he had it."
Oh yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I took Josh out the other day, and we only had like 3 hours to fish.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him out the other day because I knew pretty much where they were, because I found them in June. And we go out there, and I caught one on the crankbait. Everything else came on the Carolina rig. And Josh, first fish he locks into is a 5 even. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good day, bro. You know what I mean? Yep. And so we went to put the smack down on him, and I was a little disappointed in the quality, because I know what we had, because we scaled them all up to do our best 5, and swear we had 18.8. All right, we almost had 19 pounds, which is
very strong.
But Josh lost a 5 at the boat. The last one, he would have had 2 5s of the day, and he literally jumped and came off like 10 feet away from us both. And he's all butthurt over it. Of course he is, because who doesn't want to land him? And he's just sitting there, head down, like, "Oh man, I lost 5. I would have had 2 5-pounders, and blah blah blah." And I go, "That's the difference between 18.8 and 22 pounds."
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I'm telling you. So that the biggest smallmouth that's ever been hooked in Bassmaster tournament history, which doesn't matter, because I can't call the co-angler, I can't call the marshal, because I was by myself when it happened in the open, and I fought it for 5 minutes, and it did the thing, and I thought I had it. And I mean, I caught a 6.5 the next day in the tournament, and I landed it, and I had a co-angler the next day, and he's freaking out, and I'm going, "It's like a 5-pounder." And he's like, "Dude, that's the biggest smallmouth I've seen." I was like, "You should have seen how big the one I lost yesterday was if you think this is big." And I put it on the scale, and it says 6'4". And I'm like, oh my God, like, this was a legit 7.5 to 8-pound smallmouth that I lost. But like, I'm by myself. The story doesn't have very much merit to it, because there's no one there to witness it.
Right.
I lose that thing at the side of the boat. It's noon. I had a 5 o'clock weigh, and I didn't get another bite the rest of the day. And I legitimately laid on my back on the front deck of the boat with my eyes open, staring directly into the blue sky for a solid 20 minutes while my whole body was tingling and numb. And I just had that pit in my stomach.
Oh yeah.
But what I kept thinking was, man, I wish someone else had seen that damn fish.
Oh yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. It's that whole validation game, and it's the whole, someone else could go, "Oh my God, you should have seen that." You know what I mean? Or he's not lying. You know what I'm saying? And it's just because you hear about the lost fish, especially in tournaments. "I had the fish." You hear about it every minute of every day, and then you're like, "Yeah, okay."
I've got 2 of those. Like, I jumped what I believe to be a legit 12 to 14 pounder off at Sam Rayburn in an open.
Oh my God.
But I was with a local, and when that fish jumped, he immediately said, "Son, I've fished here for 30 years, and that's one of the top 3 biggest bass I have ever seen in my life." And like, we kind of were able to, and like, it helped because I was able to like share it. Like, it was one of those things where it was on a drop shot. I thought I'd beefed everything up. I got through the jumps. It whale jumped it. And in hindsight, and he pointed out, it never opened its mouth when it jumped. It just went like that. Well, I think what happened was I got it out away from everything. This thing was walrus, and it was the difference between a 14-pound bag and a 22-pound bag.
Oh yeah.
And when it came up, it came up and it did whoop, and then went back down, and I was like, it's gone. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, it's gone. It's no longer on my line. And I reel it in. It's like just helpful to have someone there. And I'm like, how big? He's like, I don't want to say it, but I think that might have been a teener. And but at least someone else was there to validate it, to where I wasn't like, was I totally being way too dramatic on it and stuff? And we could probably find that guy, have him on, and he'd be like, oh yeah, I remember when that kid hooked the biggest fish I've ever seen on a spinning rod, jumped it 3 times and lost it by the boat.
Yeah, that's insanity, man. That's a giant, dude.
Yeah.
That is a giant.
Yep. It would have been the Open in 2021, I think, or maybe 2022, whatever. I still cashed a check in the event. It was the difference between that and a top 10. I think I had 16 that day, and it would have been like a mid-20s bag, because I had like a high 2s that I weighed in, which would have given me another 10 pounds.
Dude, when you're talking about a bass that big in a tournament, that's a game-changing bet. If you've got 4 other ones to go.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Clay said, I saw my buddy lose a DD on a buzzbait once, and I always remind it when I see him.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about, man. That's my issue is I fish alone 99% of the time.
Yeah,
I fish alone. A lot of the time I'm doing work. I'm looking for stuff. And our lakes are so small here that when you find a hidden gem, you got to keep the hidden gem to yourself, because if you have multiple fishing pressure on it, it changes everything, and they don't behave. The bass don't use it anymore. They don't behave the same. Milliken proved that to me.
Yeah,
Ben proved that to me.
He's fairly good about switching up bodies of water. Not
yes.
I wish so much could be said for other people right now that are going on in Oklahoma, but whatever.
Well, so here's the thing. Okay, I fish a handful of lakes, and when I say a handful, it's probably 5. I have certain locations in all 5 of those lakes, especially once the spawn is over, where I throttle them all the way till winter almost. Okay. I do not beat on the same lake. I do not beat on the same spots.
Mm-hmm.
I leave them be. Like the lake I took Josh to the other day. I hadn't fished it since the first week in June.
Yeah.
And I could literally have gone there every day and plastered them till I couldn't catch them anymore. But I'm ruining it for myself, because the school's going to leave, because fishing pressure changes everything, but continual fishing pressure for survival and instinct, the bass will leave it. They will be gone. I have a couple lakes where I've figured out where they winter. So did some other guys. You cannot catch them there anymore.
No. You mean you don't have a burning desire to charge an outlandish amount of money and just go burn the lake to the ground for 2 months in a row and then move on to another one?
No, it's cruel to the environment. It's cruel to the bass. I
gotta stop talking right now.
Yeah, no.
I'll tell you off there.
Yeah, I'm tracking. But no, it's cruel to the environment, and it's cruel to the bass, and it's very unfair. It's insanely unfair. Like Bass Tracker on the tournament trails where they show where everybody fishes, I find it highly interesting and very informative, but I'm 100% against it. I think you have to keep some things undercover, because the spots get burnt and then they don't hold fish anymore. And then it takes years for it to recover.
It does. All right. Here's what we got going on, Frank. We're going to wrap this up. I'm going to turn right around. I'm going to fire up the regular Bass Talk Live. I got Dave Rush and Jordan Babcock standing by live from iCast. We're going to do a walkthrough of iCast live. So if you want to ask questions about new stuff, see what's going on at iCast across the board, we're going to come back on that. But every once in a while, we just have a banger show. And today was one of those, Frank. You brought your A game today. Well done.
Dude, I brought my A game feeling like an F game.
I know, but I mean, I had no idea. Like, we started out, I'm kind of trying to get my bearings. I know we got to talk about some new stuff. You go down a freshwater drum path that I didn't see. All of a sudden, we're throwing out recipes and I'm like, where are we going with this show? We started out on rough water. Like, great show though.
We took it, man. Hey, what better rough water drum? I mean, they go hand in hand.
It is. All right, this has been another edition of Day 4 with the man Frank Scalish. Same time, same place. Next week, we'll talk to everyone later. See ya.
See ya, guys.